Hello, lesson 12, nesting multiple effects. Again, a lot of you guys know how to do this already, but this will be kind of a review, and maybe there's a couple of things that you have never seen before that you can start applying when you guys edit. So there are going to be times when one effect is required on the same segment or clip. This is called nesting. Make sure you know the term nesting, okay? So for example, say I wanted to take this clip and make it black and white. So say I'm going to take a color effect real quick. I'm going to go into my effect editor. Just going to bring the saturation down, make it black and white. But not only do I want it black and white, I also want to shrink it a little bit. Okay, I want to use a picture-in-picture effect. Now I don't have anything underneath it. It's just going to be black, but this is this is an example. So now what I'm going to do is take my picture-in-picture effect. If I just click and drag that, put it on it, okay, it's not working. Okay, but if I want to put a picture-in-picture effect on top of an effect, you're going to hold down the Option key on the keyboard. Hold it down and click and drag it and put it directly on top of your clip. Okay? So now you can see I have two effects on top of each other. A black and white underneath, and then I have my picture-in-picture, in which I can go and do whatever it is that I need to do with it. In the last lesson we did, in lesson 11, I couldn't remember where the keyframe interpolations were, so I did figure that out. They are right over here. So over here in these keyframes that you add here, you can actually pick which interpolation you'd like to use. Okay, so quick little go back to lesson 11. So now what I have done is I have nested an effect. It's great because when you open up your effect editor, if you look closely at it, you can see both effects. So here's my picture-in-picture, and then here's my color effect. Okay, so I can actually change anything that I want just by clicking on the effect editor. So say I've already put my picture-in-picture in there, but I want to add a little blue tint to that. So I can actually adjust that, but it doesn't change my picture-in-picture effect. Okay, so very, very cool and helpful tool. There's also ways you can get in and adjust effects. You can double click right on your clip. When you double click on your clip, you can see how it reveals the color effect on top of that. And then if I double click on that, it reveals the actual raw clip. Okay, so if I wanted to, I can actually edit the raw clip and it will not affect the color or the picture-in-picture. So say I want to, I don't know, I'm going to add this this shot right here. Okay, this guy jumping. We'll do midair. And I'm going to edit that halfway in the middle of this clip. So what I can do is patch this to 2.1, okay, and then I can overwrite that in. So now I actually have two cuts. And you can see how it did not change the color effect or the picture-in-picture. Then if I just double-click on that, it collapses everything down. So when I play it, go from there and cut from there. All right, so you can actually edit within your nested effects. Okay, the final way to get into nesting effects is to step in or step out. And to do that, you're going to use these two arrows down here. So if I put my blue indicator bar right on my nested effects, I can step into it. And the reason why you may want to use the step in is because you notice how the rest of the timeline disappears and you're only using just this clip. Okay, so it makes editing a little bit easier if you wanted to edit some more footage underneath your nested effects. I can step in one more time, and here is the raw footage. Okay, so if I wanted to edit, I don't know, say we'll edit in another another little clip. Let's see what's going on with this guy with no shirt. We'll edit this guy in. Let's see, we'll edit this guy in. Make sure your video track is always highlighted. And now we have 3 cuts on here. All right. Now I can step out of this. There's my color effect. And now I'm back to my regular timeline. So now when I play this, should be 3 cuts. Okay. So 3 ways to go into your nested effects. All right. You can actually just click right into Effect Editor. And you can adjust the effects any way that you want. You can double click on the effect, all right, and it creates a sub track right here. Or you can step in and step out of your nested effects, and that will allow you to go into them as well. Okay. Rendering. Sometimes effects need to be rendered. You guys have all learned that we do an expert render in and out when we get ready to export all of our footage. By rendering, what it does is it makes sure that the sequence is going to run smooth when it exports out. Sometimes you can play certain cuts and it might be a little jittery, or maybe the CPU isn't processing the video as quickly as it should. And sometimes things need to be rendered. If you notice on here, we have all these effects have green dots on them. All right. When they have green dots on them, that means they should be real-time effects. You shouldn't have to render them in order for you to play them back. But that is not the case for other types of effects. Okay. So if you look, all these have green dots, but there are some effects, for example, right here, the fluid morph or the fluid blur. Those do not have green dots. So if I were to click and drag that onto one of my clips, you'll see it has a dark blue dot on it. When it has a dark blue dot on it, that means when I play it, it's not a real-time effect. That means it's got, it has to be rendered. Okay? And to render that effect, you just click on your Render Effect button, and it should render it pretty quickly. Okay? So if you're ever playing a sequence and the effects are not playing, chances are you need to render the effects. Another thing that you're going to want to know is that if you render the top effect, so this right here, I have all my my picture-in-pictures, okay? If I render the top effect, what it will do is it'll not only just render the top effect, but make sure all the effects below it work nice and smooth. Okay? Every once in a while down here in the timeline, you may see some red, blue, or yellow bars. Okay? And the video might either not play or might play a little bit jumpy or jittery. The reason for that is Media Composer is monitoring the system performance. If it detects that the system is reaching its limits, it warns you using playback performance indicators. That's what the red, blue, and yellow bars are. Okay? So if you get a red line, the red line indicates areas that are overtaxing the system during playback. The system dropped frames in order to play through the effect composite. The effects in these areas must be rendered to prevent drop frames next time you play the sequence. So if you ever are having issues and you see some red bars down here in the timecode timeline, all right, then you're going to have to render the effects that are up here. So say you get a blue line. If you get a blue line, these indicate areas that have stressed the hard drives on which the media is stored, but did not cause any frames to be dropped. These bars occur frequently. You may want to move your media to a faster drive, change your drive configuration. Chances are you're not going to encounter that too often unless you are editing from an external drive that we did not issue you. So you always want to make sure your drive is fast enough if you decide to, make a career out of using Avid and you're going to edit on your own. Always make sure your external drive is fast enough. Finally, the yellow bars. These indicate areas that are stressing the system during playback, but did not cause it to drop any frames. Okay, so it may not have dropped any frames, so it's still stressing the system. Again, rendering those areas will help to prevent that. Okay, so that is all for lesson 12. Make sure you do your exercises. It'll help you out. And see you in lesson 13. Leon out.